Hi. Thank you for joining me for First Drafts That Glow, episode, 16. How amazing. I'm your host, Avon, or Nails That Glow, depending on how you know me. And tonight we're going to be walking through a story about somebody who goes through a significant amount of change and who has to accept themselves, I guess is the best way to say it. I'm really proud of this story. I'm pretty sure, just like the last story, I'm going to trip up here and there, since it is, like a first draft flash fiction kind of thing, and it's a cold reading. Um, Stuff is bound to mess up, but that just, let you feel like that I'm sitting there with you, reading you this story, hopefully, because I'm cute and you want my company. And that's why you're watching or listening, whatever you're doing. This is geared towards, visuals, as you can see here. I don't know what I put here, but it's something. Yeah, so I took a few notes from some people that watched last week's episode, and I'm changing my lighting up a little bit. I'm still trying to figure out the green screen here. Last episode, I didn't quite light it adequately, so my form looked a bit funky in it, which is fine. It's fine. And I Section 31. For those of you who don't know, I'm obviously a big Trekkie. I have lots of Delta badges. I'm a little frustrated that Picard ended showing a gold-backed Delta badge, which I guess makes sense because, like, they're mostly gold and silver, like, through the years. Gold and or silver instead of silver and black. But that just means that's another Delta badge I need. Or you can just buy me one and send it to me. All right. So I promised one of the other notes was I did talk forever. And it's just typical for me to just kind of ramble in these intros. And yeah, it's just me talking. It's my show. If you want to do something different, you do it. As Trixie and Katya says, this is my show, not yours. So I'm doing what the fuck I want to, Queen. Can I say fuck this early in the video? I don't know. I don't monetize these. So if you want, you can go to nailsthatglow.com. You can, check out some of my wish lists. You can find my Venmo, Cash App, and, send a cat some cash. Help me produce more shows. Help me in my transition. What do you think? You like this fit? I do too. I'm like, my hair game isn't on point, and I don't wear much but eyeshadow, lipstick, and blush. The whole foundation thing is kind of... I tried that for a while. Oh my god, it is a chore and freaking expensive. Just to get to the point where you look, that kind of China doll, well, porcelain doll. There we go. See, I grew up anyways, you get it. That's just how I grew up. But anyways, the porcelain skin, when I was younger, it was easier for sure. But, as you get older, you get some sunspots and stuff. Even though I avoided the sun, I'm not really sure where those came from. But here I am again, just randomly ranting. Yeah. Anyways, if you're interested in my other shows, it's First Drafts That Glow on YouTube. I'm also on Ko-Fi, Nails That Glow at Nails That Glow Eldritch Cafe, and Nails That Glow Mastodon Social. The second one is mainly just a bot account promoting the show. The Eldritch Cafe is where I do most of my chit-chatting since the Bird site decided to go all fashionista on us all, because reasons. I'm not really sure. Um, but yeah, I'm out there. And if you have anything you want to contribute to the show, maybe a story idea or some art or something, or if you want to promote your own project or store on my show, go ahead and give me a shout out. Firstdraftsthatglow at gmail.com, and we'll definitely work something out. You know, uh, if you're LGBTQ, IA plus, chances are, whatever it is, I'm gonna say yes. You know, I have no qualms supporting pretty much anything, because like, unless it's obviously like not appropriate for you know public consumption. Like, if you have a pirate site, I'm not going to promote that. But okay, I am getting way off topic here, way off topic. But it's what I do here. It's why you're here, to hear me talk, to be random, to be cute and pretty, and hear the stories that I write. All right, so guess we're gonna start. Hey, look at that. I didn't talk for forever, but I did talk for a bit. Save me. Tragically unhip, but pretty, but not very hip. But, who cares? You know who that's for. Okay. All right. Let me get comfy here. All right. Ooh. I think I need a new chair. All right. So this is Hang Blanks, a First Drafts That Glow story by me, Avon. All right. I amuse myself way too much. All right. Anyways, here's the story. When I was a kid, my great-great-great-grandfather told me about giving birth to 3 kids and having to wait nearly a decade to get a refit. He said it used to be a longer process to be approved and checked out mentally to get into a new body. Back then, the bodies were a mixture of cloned and printed parts. My history book has some gross pictures of some without skin, and even some cut up to see cross-sections. Red, my great 3 times grandfather, told me these types of pictures would not be in school books when he was a kid. He even told me people were still getting used to men having babies and nons. He doesn't like the term nons. He said they used to be called non-binary, as Fema was. Unfortunately, Faye died when the solar orbit retirement home fell out of the sky into Fair Street. Red tells me that I'm lucky to not have seen that. Poor Faye was only 130. Red won't tell me how old he is. He also tells me there should be more greats, but he thinks 3 is plenty. He must be close to 350. Mom and Zaddy are only 60, and I'm just turning 14. When my HUD blinked, Red saw the look of excitement on my face. I was getting to pick my gender today, and he wanted to be there. He wanted to be there with me, since Mom and Zad were stuck in transit from the Moon Hotel due to a solar flare. Stupid son. I always liked the idea of being the kind of man Red is. Nice, deep voice, square jaw, flat chest, but no penis to contend with. I think I want to bear a child as well. Mom wanted me to be a cis woman, and Zaddy told me to pick whatever made my heart sing. I guess the one that births you will always baby you. The attendant at the desk was so basic in appearance I couldn't tell if they were human or AI that ran the front desk, like at school. Hello, are you Uka? Is it Uka or Yuka? Uka. Yeah, that's it. Uka. I'm probably going to pronounce it differently later down the road. I got the name. Okay. I'm down below if you're watching this on the premiere, so you ask me questions there. They were human. No AI talks with that slight warmth. They also moved like a human. AIs are too precise and deliberate. That is me, I chirped as I set my right hand on the ID panel. This is my grandfather, Red. He will be with me for the appointment. Reading their own HUD. One moment. Let me confirm. A few moments then, they motion as they say, he's in our system and approved as your guardian. If you will enter here and follow the arrow to your HUD, in your HUD to room CA7. Thank you kindly, Red says with that accent he claims was used in his birth city when he was my age. It only comes out when he's minding his manners. Zaddy says Grandpa Red has a habit of being rude. I always thought it was funny when he got that stern voice. My HUD showed a rainbow arrow floating just above the floor, directing us through the grid of rooms. There had to be a few hundred rooms. The smell was neutral to the point it bothered me. Everywhere had a smell, but not here. Are you bothered by the lack of smell, same as me? I checked my biofeed, and Mom, Zad, or Grandpa had looked at... I checked my biofeed, and Mom, Zad, or Grandpa had looked at it in days. I don't know what I'm saying there. What gave it away? You move your fingers like you are counting on them. You're counting on them. When you do that when you're uncomfortable. Yeah, I sort of slid. This is why we're here. Yeah, I'm sort of slid by the lack of smell. Has it always been like this for fittings? I slowly look up at him. Not at all. My first time getting a refit for my legs and arms, my mouth watered from the heavy chemical smell in the air, making my mouth and throat taste weird. The hum of the air filters going full tilt was almost enough to make it impossible to talk. I much prefer how they have it set up now. Moving his arms wide like my teacher does when trying to get all of our attention. The room was almost as big as my bedroom. The back wall had a large tube I assumed was the builder. One wall was a screen showing scenes of landscapes of the planets and biomes. The opposite wall had a desk built into it with a bed coming out of the wall lowering itself as I approached it. 3 chairs floated around the room, slowly, until Red was in. A chair approached him and made a soft chime. He thanked it and sat, telling it to move to wherever the drink dispenser was. It moved him to the video wall, corner closest to the door. A box comes out of the wall with a chamber. He calls out for something he told me was called soda pop. I never liked it. Far too sweet for me and my friends. How do older people drink that much sugar? He asked if I wanted something as I was finishing my order on my HUD. Lemon and orange ice flakes, my absolute favorite. We didn't wait for long until the doctor came in. Okay, Uka, Red, I'm Dr. Price. Would you like my current record? Red and I both nod as our displays fill with the past 2 years of Dr. Price's performance. Me being young had no real idea what some of the information was talking about. I counted on Red to approve the doctor. Do you exclusively work with puberty? Red asks. Yes, we used to have a more general practice, but discovered recently that specializing reduced mistakes, almost entirely. I was assigned puberty work since the majority of my patients happen to be younger. Red nods. I could tell he was doing his best to do what he called flexing. I asked Mom what that was, and she said it had something to do with movies about men jumping around with guns and scowling. See, I spelled red instead of read. Yeah, okay. He pretends to read more. I can tell when he's just thinking of what to say next. He taught me how to do the same. It allowed me to watch some of the old 2D stories he loves to talk about. I learned so much about the original myths of Star Trek and Blake 7. Okay, you may speak to my grandkid, Red nods to me. I nod back. Well, Uka, I just need to know a few things about what you're looking for with your gender. After a few hours of talking, a break for lunch, then the procedure itself. We were home and I was dizzy from the chip cutting the pain off and slowing down my movement speed to allow for healing. Red put me in bed and watched old shows about a guy solving obvious murder cases. He was frumpy and wore a tan coat and kept saying, "One more thing." Reminded me of Red a little. The next day, I read my status display and it warned me that I would not be able to run, shout, or manage tools or games that require coordination today. I checked myself out. Not much had changed. They made it so I would grow up like Red. It would take years for me to really notice what is different, but I was now officially a boy. I was ready to have guy time with Red. Red took me out to a theme park that mimicked the 20th century. He asked for the 70s area and started walking all funny. I saw hollows of dancing people on wheeled shoes and huge bell shapes on their pants. I asked what genders each character was. He told me there were only 2 in the public eye at this time in history. He did say drag queens and trans folks did challenge this, but it was nothing like today. The table we sat at had a low-res flat panel animation. Red told me it was a video game and claimed he was controlling the yellow circle consuming the white dots. I tried, but couldn't wrap my head around the limit of not being able to go in more directions, or move the maze to get a better view. The order drone came by, showing us a series of special options on its screen. I wanted to try the beef sandwich called Ches Burger. Red ordered this gross-looking pile of browns called chili fries. I was so happy to have him in my life. Mom and Zad work so much off-planet, and I would die if I had to deal with an AI. As we were leaving the restaurant, everything went dark. When I woke up, Red and another person were hovering over me, inserting tubes and shouting. I think they were shouting. I couldn't hear anything. The sky above looked like it was shaking, but I felt no movement. The next time I woke up, I saw Red sleeping in a chair. I tried to speak, but I couldn't manage to say anything. I tried to move, and nothing happened. I couldn't even access my HUD. Red woke suddenly, with wide eyes, looking at me, then ran out quickly. I swear I heard him gasp, but did not hear him run out. I was falling back into dark as the doctor and Red came back in. I can't say I opened my eyes. I just started seeing. Next to a table filled with info slabs and food dishes were 3 blanks hanging on a wall. Blanks were scary to me. Android bodies modified to carry a human brain around. I'd only ever seen them in the university arcologies Mom worked at. She told me it was rare a human needed to live in one of those, and it was not often long. They were creepy. They all moved in a clunky way, and the faces, even with the ability to smile, felt like they looked empty. I tried to scream and jump out of bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't move, look at myself, or feel anything. I thought I was breathing, but I could be imagining that, or I could have been imagining that. I started to feel dizzy as a few people came in the room. I quickly felt better, then slept again. The next time I woke up, I was in a new room. I could see Mom, Zad, and Red. They were talking with a doctor that had artificial arms and something strange about his face. I saw Red pointing at the doctor as Zad moved quickly to sit him back down. I called out to them. I didn't feel my voice, but they did hear me. Everyone looked at me. The doctor stood up first. His right arm opened a number of places, revealing a number of smaller arms with hands. It cast a shadow over me for a moment. As he moved his arm back, with the extra bits hiding under his plastic skin, I heard sound. Can you hear now? He can hear you now, the doctor said. I tried to call out, but in place of a voice, there was a text display in hollow in front of me. What is going on? Why can't I feel or move? Mom and Zad were both trying to talk and started crying each time. Red stood up looking at me. Uka, you had what is called cancer. It caused an imbalance in your brain and your nervous system, and you were operated on. I understood half of what he just told me. Giving up trying to talk, I just thought about what I wanted to say, and the words showed up. I'm scared. Why can't I move? Red looked down, rubbing his brows with his left hand before looking back up. Your body, it was getting in the way of your treatment. This cancer, it's impossible to remove completely. In my day, people could survive from this, but you... Red starts to cry. What is it, I thought. What is it? I made sure the text was larger. Mom and Zad got up. Mom and Zad got up to walk towards me. Mom held up a mirror lens, and turns it on. In my short life, I have been terrified a number of times. I remember when I was 5, looking at space through the window in my room made me cry and have nightmares. When I was 8, I got into a fight with another kid over whose turn it was to order food from the dispenser. The broken nose hurt so bad, the smell of blood and pain in my head was so strong, I never thought it would end. What I was looking at now was nothing like what I had seen anywhere. It was a head of a robot, with the top part mostly removed with wires pouring out of it. To one side was a container with various numbers and colors all over with my name in large letters in the center. I noticed as the eye looked around. The robot's eyes moved. I screamed before everything went dark once again. Waking up to music and the smell of flowers had me thankful the nightmare was over. I got up and ran to the bathroom to look at the subtle changes the doctor had made to me for my puberty to start. What looked back at me from the lens was not me. It had my face, forearms, and bottom parts of my legs. They all looked normal. The rest was robot. I had to still be in a nightmare. I tried to leave the room. The door wouldn't open. I began banging on the door, and I noticed I couldn't actually feel when I hit the door. I hit harder. I kept upping the energy behind the punches until I saw my hand was in ruins. I started with my other hand. That was starting to break up as the door opened, and I barely missed hitting Red. I said you might react like this. He walked in with a mug, sipping it. Come and sit. We'll get a doctor in here to replace those hands. What's going on, Grandpa? I felt my voice in my ears, felt air going in and out of my nose and mouth. Why do I have a robot body? Where's Zad and Mom? Red motions for me to sit again. Uka, my boy, I'm sorry. Your parents needed to return to work. They took an entire year off. As soon as you're better, you can join them. What happened to me? I had these nightmares about not being able to breathe or speak. He told me a story that started the day we went to the theme park eatery. I had a seizure. They took me to the hospital and found cancer in my brain and nervous system. It was a new kind of cancer cell, something that was hard to detect. I got it out for it only to grow in another part of my body, using the blood and nervous system to get back into my brain. The only way to stop the cancer from reinfecting my brain was to remove it from the body. Once they removed the cancer cells, they waited to see if any new growth would happen. Once they confirmed I was in the clear, they fashioned a new body for me. While I was in recovery, the cancer returned. Nobody understands why this is happening. They had to keep my brain outside of an organic body. The times I remember waking up were only a few out of dozens of times I became aware of myself. With a large sigh, he looks at me with his old eyes. I'm so sorry, Uka. You'll never have a body that isn't a machine. It's hard enough for a kid. I now had to try to understand that I was not going to grow into a body. I would never need to shave, never be able to have a child, never able to ask that cute non in class if they would like to go for a picnic with me. Who'd want to date a brain? I wanted to cry. I tried to wipe tears off my face that were not there, but was stopped by Red before the destroyed robot hands cut me. A few doctors came in. They asked me if I wanted to watch how to replace parts of my body now, or if they want me to be asleep. Red stands up faster than I can reply, yelling at the two people in pale blue outfits. He's not a device for you to turn on and off. They apologized, looking at me for a go-ahead. I nodded, and they showed me the release buttons and the commands on my HUD to release the limbs without tearing anything. They put the new arms on. The skin was already there. I looked at my hands, and they looked like my hands. They just didn't feel like my hands. Not in any way. Will I be able to feel with these hands? I asked the doctors. Well, we need you to finish the healing. We need you to finish healing the new nervous system, and then we can adjust all of that. If you want to go down to a pod room, we can also cover the rest of your body the way you want. When they left, I asked Red to leave. I had just officially become a boy, and I lost it in less than a day. Red said it was a year since then. I was 15 and discovered I will not have a normal body for the rest of my life. What the fuck was I going to do? The next few years were hard. I had to learn everything about my body and the interface. My regular classes and social life were gone. All I could do was learn and get used to charging beds and vitamin paste pods. Red told me as a joke once that when he was a kid, transports needed this stuff called oil. It lubricated the mechanical parts and occasionally needed to be drained and replaced. He said this was not tact. He said this with no tact, as I was learning how to drain and replace the fluid required to keep my body moving and my skin looking organic. I wanted to laugh, but that day I yelled at him. On my 20th birthday, I was ready to be part of the world. I knew everything about my body and robotics. I even got a job in a lab developing new robotic tech. I had gone through a puberty of sorts, just not the one I wanted. It was the day I had to choose what kind of adult body I wanted. I could literally pick every detail. My expertise now was so advanced I could have a direct role in building my new body. When I got to the lab, the people I had trained and studied with had a party set up for me. I was the first person in history that would be living in a totally artificial body permanently. The longest anyone had to use a robotic body before was 4 years. I already broke that record. The lab director told me there would be some press outside after work. I wanted to avoid that. He would zoom me home later in his floater. The room I worked in was filled with hundreds of blanks hanging along the walls. Some were the previous models I started with. The rest were my improvements and adjustments. I managed to get better power use, more efficient nutrition distribution, and even more advanced nervous systems that mimicked the organic systems nearly 100%. The blanks had no minds, just hanging husks that became my closest friends. I named them all. The ones I got angry with, I would mark with names of villains from the 2D stories I would watch with Red. Khan, Davros, Sark were the special baddies. Each of them forced me to focus on the problem more than the others. Today, I would set the parameters for my new body. After that, I would not have to stay on Earth. I could go to one of the moons of Jupiter or one of the platforms in the asteroid belt. I could do anything. I would miss all of my blanks. 2 years later, I celebrated my first year on the Callisto platform. Callisto? Callisto. It was a metropolis of 2 million people. It was hard to leave Red behind, and my zaddy cried when they found out I was going to be working that far out. Every day I wake up to the sight of Callisto framed by the Jovian Jupiter. Why would anyone want to live anywhere else? My bed recharges my body, my capsules feed me, I still drink coffee and sometimes eat. The flavor is amazing. Today is the day I show off my new upgrades to the robotic humanoids that work on the surface of the various moons. The zip cars that run through the entire platforms have this wonderful hum. Nearly 15 miles long and 5 miles at its highest, I live on the largest artificial city in the system. Once my presentation starts, I see him. The guy that started a few months ago. His name, Balin. I found myself staring at him the second week he was here. No dates or relationships past friendship since I got my new body and ventured out into the star system. Still nervous how people would act if they knew I was just a brain in a jar. Who would want to be with somebody like that? Besides, I have my work. While I was presenting, I saw him paying close attention to every detail. The rest of the staff were looking at the slabs, displaying extra information, and looking back at me randomly. He was always looking at me. After the meeting, I was gathering my slabs and chips. It was time to implement what the senior staff just approved. I almost didn't hear Balin say my name. Uka, you in there? I stammered before managing to say, hi, Balin. Hi. His smile makes his face light up again. I was wondering if it is possible for me to take you out to dinner sometime. My heart sank. I was happy to just watch him from a distance and dream. What do I say? I'm sorry, what? I drop some of the items in my arms. I feel the blushing as I start to kneel to pick things up. Kneeling with me, he says, I hope this isn't inappropriate. I would just hate myself if I waited another day to ask you out. My mind began to race. This beautiful man, this adorable guy, he wants to take me out. I never gave anyone else a second thought, but him? Yes, I say too loudly. Yes, that would be lovely. Right on, a grin across his face as we both stand. Just flashed you my personal contact. I hope you are free tonight. I was going to compile a video for the family, but fuck it. Yes, what time? Give us both enough time to get to work day off our bodies, say 1930 at the Island Sun? Island Sun, huh? I have wondered what that place was like. I looked at him and said, that sounds like a plan. Excellent. He claps his hands together. Well, Uka, I'll see you there. His smile gets larger as he turns and moves with a bounce back to his office. The feeling of being seen like this is new to me. Or it's the first time I've noticed it. Even in an artificial body, still careful to have the same hormone balance as an organic body, I've only had virtual experiences with being held or sex. Red told me to take it slow with each relationship. We're all going to live for centuries, no point in rushing. Later that day, I feel every second of the zip car travel. The hum annoys me this time. I need to get to my place and change. Want to try this new eye decoration style. I wonder if I should stain my lips and what scent to wear. Once home, I tear through my closet like it is filled with things that just don't fit. Impossible. My body doesn't change shape. It all fits. Why does nothing feel right? I find a sleeveless top that shows off the muscle definition of my shoulders and chest, a nice candy red color. I decide on a long black skirt with a similar fabric look to the shirt. It has a thick belt like waist that looks good. The boots Red gave me for my parting gift fit this perfectly. The stain on my lips, the same candy red color, and use a mix of bright green and red for my eyes and define it with a thin black line. My hair is short and silver. I had a bit of blonde to color it, and the look is complete, with time enough to spare. I have the mirror snap a full body image. Want to remember this look. The zip car again annoys me. The island sun is in the center near the top of the 5-mile height. It has a 360 view. A 360 view is possible if you stand in the center chamber with a scope. The only place in the entire platform you can do that. It is still nearly a mile wide. The restaurant is spread out over the landscape, giving each table an ample sense of privacy with options to select terrain color and even the type of light you want. I enter and palm the host spot's hand. It acknowledges, calling a people mover over to me to ride to my table. The mover silently hovers over the waterways, separating each small cut of land. Some small islands large enough for 4 people, few of them smaller. The small cut of land Bolland set aside nearly makes me cry when I see it. The terrain looks just like Earth. Kentucky bluegrass just past noon sun with partial cloud cover and a spring coolness filled with smell of flowers. The table itself is a slice of marble in front of a love seat. The other side of the table has a floating entertainment cube playing what just happens to be my favorite arrangement of music from the early 21st century. A perfect setting. He walks over to the mover as it approaches, holding his hand out. Taking him in feels like time stopped. He's wearing a fitted black shirt with the look of silk. His tie an ivory white with a tight knot and a pin of a silver star keeping it down. His nails, like mine, black and slightly long. The pants and shoes seamlessly matching. The aesthetic of his shirt and tie, the sliver of socks, I see the same color of his tie. His ears, unlike mine, have a few piercings, all small and silver. 5 in each ear in various places. His hair a darker black than normal, and a neat side part. Lips slightly gray, and smelling of patchouli. Good evening, Uka. You look amazing. I find it hard to say anything as I blush. I manage a, thank you. You look very handsome yourself. We sit and talk for a while about what we might eat. I decide on gator steaks, and he gets a tofu curry. We sip on red wine and share stories about work and gossip about some of the people in our office. Janet thinks they are able to sing better than they can. Janet thinks they are able to sing better than they can, I tell him. Went to a karaoke night with them, and the glass might have broken if they could have focused. His laugh is deep and warm. I can see that. Their office is right next to mine, and they sometimes sing songs from musicals. Goodness, I'm sorry, I say with a sigh. Oh my, I think I might be a little drunk. I was a little drunk. When I ate, the internal system I designed would process all of it like an organic body. I just didn't need to most of the time. I think I have a lower tolerance than most people as well. I think I am as well, he parrots. I'm clear enough to know a few things right now. What is that? I say with my eyes mostly closed. I feel his fingers softly wrap around my neck and his thumb supporting my chin slightly, his other hand wrapping around my waist. He kisses me. It's impossible to really describe what I felt. Everything in my head and body felt like a fire was raging. The smell of him, the taste of him, was somehow better than anything else I've ever experienced before. I doubted there would be anything else better. I wanted it to last forever. He gently stopped and pulled his head back. I've wanted to do that since we first talked months ago. I must have been blushing more than normal because his smile grew as I tried to form words. Well, yes. And yes, also, yes. I blurt out before I bury my face in his neck. He wraps his arms around me with a deep breath. I'm so happy we did this. Same. My voice meekly rises from my hiding place. The rest of the evening was me sitting in his arms as we listened to music and kept talking about things we liked and things that bugged us. Everything was going fine until he asked if we could do this again. The feeling of panic waved over me. If we do this again, it might lead to another again, and then what? Sex? I would have to tell him about my body before then. What would he say? Would he still like me? He noticed just how frozen I was. Hey, are you okay? He situates us to make it easy to look at each other. Did I say something wrong? Did I do something wrong? I freeze a bit and stammer. He waits patiently for me to compose myself. Finally, I say, "No, you are delightful. This is possibly the best time I've had since venturing out on my own. It's just," I trail off. Well, would you like to see me again? His eyes looked sad when he said that. No, I mean, yes. Wait, how do I answer that to say I want to see you again? Well, you just said it, he smiles. But I see there's something else. I think for more than a moment. Then, more than another moment before I finally say, I'm not even sure what I want really. You're handsome, and that kiss could convince the gods to do your bidding. He laughs. I touch his face, looking him over. I just need to think some things over. I hope that's good enough for now. A moment of concern and confusion on his face is quickly replaced with a grin. So you like my kissing? I nod as he kisses me again. The following few days were hard for me to focus on. Thankfully, the program I was starting was mostly automated, and I had written most of the code and built most of the models for the printers. Just needed to tweak here and there. The third day after our date, he sent flowers to my office. Red and purple roses. The card said, "This weekend?" I felt a rush of blood to my various body parts and had to sit down. Pulling up his contact in my head, I sent a voice message saying yes, with an animated emote nodding. Moments later, his reply contained location, time, and said I should have a change of clothing and necessary related overnight items. I sent back a big question mark. He quickly replied, "We have our own rooms," with a big smiley face. That weekend, I met him at the docking station for a cruise ship that did a loop around Callisto and back to the station in 2 days. It was the first time I had ever been on a leisure ship. The nervous energy must have been giving off physical signals because the porter bot asked me if I was doing okay twice before Balin found me. "I'm so sorry I'm late. The ticket booth was having a malfunction and I couldn't authorize our passes." "It's fine," I said as he sent over the block code to board me. "You look very nice. And, Earth Beach ready," I said, looking him over in a black linen suit with no shirt and slip-on canvas shoes, also black. "You look stunning," he said, obviously trying to find more words. I was wearing a form-fitting muscle tee in a light purple and satin black shorts with black sandals and a large floppy black hat. Once on the ship, we were directed to our rooms next to each other, near the bow of the craft. We had a door that connected us, and that first day it was left wide open until we went to bed. He was the one that closed the door after kissing me goodnight. Next day, I wanted to tell him. Tell him that I was not entirely human anymore. If it was going to end, then I had a good time to remember forever. He also didn't seem like the type to tell everyone either. That was important. We were at dinner, next to one of the long windows facing Jupiter. The light music of harpsichords and violins playing. The food was tropical fruits, flavoring various meats and sweet drinks. As we were eating something called a lava cake, I decided it was time. Balin, I have something serious to tell you before you and I can go any further. If it is you want this entire cake, we're gonna fight. The smirk on his face nearly derailed me. Well, yes, but no. He giggled a little. Okay, I'll let you have it. No, please, I want to share this. I just want to talk to you about something. A serious look came over his face. Take your time. I'll nibble on this cake. It took me longer than I wanted it to. The entire cake was gone, both of us full of sickly sweet foods and alcohol. I wanted him to hold me and kiss me. I wanted to feel his warmth and the roughness he kept on his face. He ordered some tea for us and asked if I wanted anything else to eat or snack on. I couldn't answer. He ordered some tea and biscuits and a fruit plate. After everything was set before us, I took a deep breath. Okay, what I'm going to tell you is something nobody else knows and I do not share. He sits up, catching the importance conveyed by my voice. I'm flattered and honored you want to share something like that with me, Uka. Well, hold on to that until you know. I took a deep inhale, sipped the tea, and stuffed 2 shortbread biscuits in my face. Okay, so 8 or 9 years ago, I was going to choose my puberty path just like we all do. I lost the ability to talk for a moment. He reached out to hold one of my hands, silently looking at me, saying, Take your time. I'm here, with his eyes. That was the best and worst time of my life. Looking around the table, I located a napkin and cursed the eyes crying like regular people. I was with my grandfather. He was the type of person I wanted to be, and finally getting to start that path was the most exciting thing. Balin looked confused for a moment. Your parents weren't there? I'm sorry, that's rude of me to ask. No, it's weird for the parents not to be there for sure. They were delayed by a solar flare from the sun, and they insisted I not miss the appointment. Plus, my grandpa and I spent most of our time together, even when they were around. I'm sorry for interrupting, he said. Well, I had to finish my tea. Balin motioned to the bots to bring more. I cleared my throat for no other reason than to explain why I was pausing for so long. That day was exciting. We went to one of those theme park places that embodied the world hundreds of years ago. We sat in the 70s restaurant. I stopped and couldn't see myself finishing the story. Balin moved his seat next to mine, wrapping his arm over my shoulder. He held me like that forever. He held me like that seemingly forever until I could continue. Looking down under his chin, as we were leaving to go home, I blacked out. I could hear his heart race. He was worried, and I could taste the words he wanted to say. After a time, I was woken up and my condition was explained to me. I started to cry. Balin just held me and asked if I wanted to go to my room. I expressed yes somehow, and he led me to our rooms. He sat me on my bed and asked me if he should leave. No, please stay. This is hard for me. Anything you say. Kneeling on the floor in front of me, holding my hands and looking up at me. He smiles. Something about this made me feel comforted. I got my thoughts together, took a deep breath, and told him the rest of the story. Every detail. And what he was actually sitting in front of. Not a person, not a man, not a human. Just a brain in a fancy jar that worked a convincing puppet. When I finished the story, I got up and ordered some drinks and snacks. I needed comfort food when he left. He got up and went to his room. I thought, this is it. He's never going to talk to me again. He came back holding a black rose. Kneeling in front of me again, he handed it to me. We've just started this journey. I would be honored if you would allow me to continue traveling this universe with you. I slumped down to the floor like a falling curtain, wrapping my arms around his neck. I started to cry. He wrapped his arms around me. That night was the best night of my life. What do you think? That is Hang Blanks. I thought that was a beautiful and excellent story. I was trying to think of like, a way to talk about being trans and feeling out of place, and also just give us a world where like people like us are normal. Like, not, I mean, we are normal, but society doesn't really see us like that. We're kind of on the outside of it still. And gender being what it is, it's so fuckery. So like it shouldn't matter if you have, like a vaginal canal and ovaries, like if you're a boy, you're a boy. Like, come on. And Uka was a boy, and Balin was a man. We didn't really talk about his gender, but you can fill that in however you want. But yeah, a few slips here and there, and I do think I could have continued with that story a bit more. Because the idea of somebody being the first, kind of, Major Kusanagi, Makoto Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell, she was the first, full cyber replacement body in that universe. Uka being kind of the same, but this universe, it was more like there were different things involved. Like, I tried to do some minor world building without, overwhelming the kind of romantic love story I was telling here. Yeah, so what did you think? Tell me below. Like and subscribe. If you want to, get in touch with me, or, look at some of my other projects, go to nailsthatglow.com. Like I said before, Eldritch Cafe, Nails That Glow, Mastodon Social, Nails That Glow. And what else? Where else am I? Oh, yeah, check out my Spotify. I make playlists. Some of them are really cool. Some of them are just kind of goofy. Whatever. Check it out. Yeah. I really hope you enjoyed this story. It made me happy to write it. I would love for people to, just, I want to see more stories like ours in the world. If you're a writer, write some. Write them now. If you're a TV writer, make sure to throw that shit in, whatever show you're working on, even if it's like, one of those crime procedurals, like, those propaganda shows, like, show a bit more reality there. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Anyways, thank you again so much for joining me for episode 16 of First Drafts That Glow, Hang Blanks. Yeah, I love you.